Thank you and welcome again to my channel. As you know, we are talking about mental health and the progress in mental issues. Help and to understand the issues and problems that are related to mental health. Now, we cannot talk about mental health by not understanding how the brain works. The most important thing we know of a human life is the brain. The brain is like the CPU, central processing unit of human life. So, how we need to understand how the brain works, how the brain takes control of everything, and even the structure itself, so that when we're going deeper and talk about uh, and talk about issues concerning mental health, problems concerning mental health, we already know where the problem lies within the brain, because everything that happens within our life, our daily to day life, as we discussed earlier about mental health and how to work, it depends with the functionality of the brain. Now, we'll go straight to, sorry, I have to, we will go straight to parts of the brain and the functions of the brain, so that when we go down and talk about disorders like autistic disorder, such kind of issues, we know where the problem is. When we go down and talk about something like Alzheimer's disease, which will come earlier, we know where the problem is and how we can deal with the problem. Now, let's go to the parts of the brain and also the structure of the brain. As you know, the brain has several parts divided into three parts. The first part of the brain is called the cerebrum. The cerebrum, the brain looks like this. Let me put this out. It has several lobes, as you can see my structure here. We have several lobes of the brain, as you can see. Yes, now we can see the occipital lobe here. You can see the temporal lobe here. You can see this small part down here, which is the cerebrum. And you can see there, here, you can see the parietal lobe, and you can see the brain stem. Now, the brain stem is down here, here. From this part here, coming down to the spinal cord. The spinal cord runs down the throat, as you can see I've drawn here. This is called the midbrain. The midbrain. The cerebrum, we have said it is, the brain is divided into three parts. We have the first part, which is the cerebrum. We have the second part, which is the cerebellum. And then we have the midbrain. Now, there is a difference between those and the lobes of the brain. The lobes of the brain is the structure of how the brain has unfolded, has folded. Yes? And as you can see in this picture, although it's not right, but I've structured something to show you how the brain has folded. You will see how the lobes are. We have the frontal one. The frontal one, we've seen. We have the parietal lobe, the temporal lobe. The temporal lobe, you've seen it. And then we have the occipital lobe. The occipital lobe, you've seen it back here. The temporal lobe just beneath the occipital lobe. Now, that is how the brain has folded. And the brain is folded beneath the skull. Yes, and it's protected with some layers. We'll see about that. Now, we've talked about now how the brain is divided, the parts of the brain. the parts of the brain. Now we'll start with the first part, which is the cerebrum. Cerebrum is the largest part of the brain, making up the majority of mass and is sitting in front of the skull, here in front of the skull. It is responsible for higher order function that requires conscious thinking. Look at that. Hmm? It is it is require it is responsible for higher order function that require conscious thoughts, the thoughts that are conscious, very specific thoughts. Outermost layer is called the cerebral cortex, often called the gray matter. The outer layer is called the cerebral cortex, often known as the gray matter, characterized by its deep folds and wrinkles. You see, deep folds and wrinkles. A structure here shows some wrinkles, which here you can see here. These are the folds, deep folds and wrinkles that increase the surface area for processing more information. Very important. The folds increase the surface area to process more information. Yes, very good. Now, the cerebrum is divided into two hemispheres. The two hemispheres are right hemisphere and left hemisphere. You see, this is, let's take my brain, like my head. Now, we have two hemispheres, like divided into two, right hemisphere and left hemisphere. That is how the cerebral cortex is divided. Now, this one shows part, the side, one side. The other side has its own hemisphere, the other side. Each hemisphere is further divided into main lobes, yes. Each hemisphere is further divided into four main lobes. Each specified function, it has its, every lobe has its function. Now, let's go to the frontal lobe here, the frontal lobe, located the front of the brain, behind the forehead. This is the forehead. Now, what is the function of the forehead? The lobe that is here. The lobe that is, what is the function of the lobe that is here? Here. What is the function of the lobe that is here? Remember, we are talking about the cerebellum. The cerebellum, which is the largest part of the brain, making the majority of the mass of the city at the front of the skull, the mass of the brain. Now, we go to the functions of the brain. Cerebrum, frontal lobe. This one is responsible for thinking, planning, organizing, problem solving. When you're thinking about solving a problem, you are using your frontal lobe. Decision making. When you are making a decision, you are making a decision using your frontal lobe. Short-term memories, things that are short-term, and at times voluntary movement. You see those movements that are voluntary. You want to pick something, like I want to pick a pen. You see, that is the frontal lobe that has told me pick a pen. Personality, yes, personality. People always ask, what is your personality? What kind of personality do you have? Yes, we will see, we'll talk about different types of personality when it comes to mental health. That time is coming. And that's why it's important to go through the function of the brain and its parts. You see emotions, emotion regulations, how emotions are, how are they? The frontal lobe of the brain helps you to know how to handle your emotion. Expressive language, yes. How to express the language that you are expressing. Now, we have talked about the frontal lobe and its function. We have said the frontal lobe is located behind the forehead. Its function include thinking, planning, organizing, problem solving, decision making, short-term memory, voluntary movement that you yourself have planned, not involuntary. Voluntary movement are movement that you have decided to do, not the body have decided for you. Yes, personality, what is your personality, emotions, and expressive language, the kind of language that you are using. Now, you know, people have different ways of expressing their language. Yes. Now we go to the next lobe, the parietal lobe. The parietal lobe we have seen is just located behind the lobes. Behind the lobes. Let's see the parietal lobe located behind the lobe. This one. Here. Parietal lobe. Here. Here. This is the parietal lobe located behind the lobe. Now the parietal lobe located behind the upper back of the brain. Functions of the parietal lobe. Interpreting sensory information. They interpret sensory information like touch, sensory information in your body that you can sense, you can feel. Yes, like touch, pressure. You can you can sense pressure, temperature. You can sense temperature. You see the parietal lobe behind, we have started from in front. We have started from in front. These are part of, remember, we are started with the first part of the brain, which is the cerebellum. The cerebellum, the first part of the brain is the cerebellum. And cerebellum is divided into several parts, divided into frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, and temporal lobe. So we have discussed the frontal lobe. Now we are at the parietal lobe, the back of the brain here, the back of the brain. There, now located behind the frontal lobe, neck, the upper back of the brain. What are the functions? The function you have said, it's responsible for sensations in the presence, interpreting sensory information, touch, pressure, temperature, and also pain. So when someone does not feel pain, uh, there must be a problem in interpretation of, the message. When the nerves carry the senses and the parietal has a problem, there can be a problem with the parietal, so you will not get the information back. Spatial relationships, that was another part undergoing where body is in relation to the object. Yes, understanding where your body is in relation to a project. That is called spatial relationship. When you're walking and you're seeing this is a big stone, the parietal lobe will always tell you, please don't go forward, turn. You see that? It's protecting you. We are calling that partial relationships, understanding where your body is in relationship to an object. And language comprehension. Now, there are some people who have no comprehensive language. When these people, you see them, just know there is something wrong with their parietal lobe. Something is happening. We call that area Wernicke's area. Now let's go to the occipital lobe at the back. Occipital lobe located at the very back of the brain. That one is at the back of the brain. The functions of the occipital lobe is processing visual information from the eye, including recognition of shapes, colors, and images. See that? Sensories from your eyes. It processes information that you see, processing images, processing everything that you are seeing. That is part of the sensory. So if you have an accident or something is wrong, and then you have bad interpretation of objects, colors, just know your occipital lobe is damaged. Now, temporal lobe located on the side of the head near the ears. Side of the head near the ears. Temporal lobe. temporal lobe located at the side of here, temporal lobe. This is the temporal lobe here, here. What is the functions of the temporal lobe? Processing information from senses of small, taste, sound, language, comprehension, and memory storage. Temporal here, temporal lobe. It processes information from sense of smell, taste, and sound, including language comprehension. Yes, and memory storage. When you store memory, that's no, the temporal lobes, there are two, this side and this side, they are working. Deep structures within the cerebrum. Now, that is where now, that is now where the, you can say mental health comes in. The deeper structures, it's called the limbic system and basal ganglia. You see, the brain has many things that we need to study slowly by slowly. Now, we will go to the limbic structure. I've drawn something here for understanding. I've drawn something here for understanding. This is the brainstem. Deeper inside the brainstem, you can see brainstem here clearly. We have some parts here. This is the midbrain. So you see down here, this is the cerebellum. As you can see here, we have some structures, we will know them. But I want first to go to the limbic system. The limbic system, the limbic system, the limbic system, deep in your brain. This is the limbic system. We start by knowing what is the limbic system. The limbic system. The limbic system has its parts. You can see pineal gland, we can see hypothalamus, we can see amygdala, we can see cerebellum, we can see hypothalamus, we can see pituitary gland. Those are parts of the brain that helps several things to happen. Now, as you can see, the picture, although it's not really clear, but you can see something here. We can go through to know what is the limbic system. The limbic system is a complex of structures in the brain responsible for regulation, regulating emotions, motivation, memory, and certain aspect of behavior. It's a bridge between the autonomic nervous system. It's a bridge. Get it right? It's a bridge between the autonomic nervous system and the endocrine system. You understand? Endocrine system talks about hormones, endocrine hormones, and higher cognitive functions like decision making and emotion processing, processing of emotion. Main functions of the limbic system here we'll get emotions. When we talk about emotions, what are we talking about? We're talking about fear, anger, pleasure, and sadness. Emotions. How do you feel? How does anger come out? How does pleasure come out? And also, how does sadness come out? Sadness comes out at times by with crying. Main function, motivation and reward. That's another function. Memory function and retrieval function. Olfaction. Olfaction means sense of smell. Olfaction. Autonomic functions, regulation, automatic functions, withdrawal of your hand from fire, withdrawal of your hand from something that is producing pain. This is via the hypothalamus. The main function we have seen, one is emotions, two is motivation and reward. We have seen memory formation and retrieval, olfaction, sense of smell, autonomic function and regulations. Now, we go deep to the limbic system. Remember, we are going through this so that when we will go to the mental health and see how things are with complication within the mental health, program, we will be knowing which part of the brain is affected and what is happening within the brain. Now we go to the key functions of the limbic system. The key structures, not functions. Key structures we have seen. We have as our diagram was, we saw amygdala, we saw the hippocampus, we saw the hypothalamus, we saw the thalamus, we saw the circulate gyrus, fornix, mammary glands, mammillary glands, septal nuclei. Now, what is the function? Where is the amygdala located? It's located at the temporal lobe. Temporal lobe here, amygdala located. We said this is the temporal lobe. Temporal lobe. So let me put up my structure here, my picture here. Amygdala down here, located at the temporal lobe. Now, if it is located at the temporal lobe, mhm, what does amygdala amygdala do in your brain? What functions does amygdala do in your brain? It is involved in processing emotions, especially fear and aggression. Fear. Amygdala is responsible for fear and aggression. You fear and fight back. You fear and fight back. Amygdala is responsible for it. Plays a role in emotion memory. Role in emotional memory. Emotions. Links emotion meaning to memories. It's a link between emotion and memories. When you remember about something good and you start crying, or you remember about something bad and you become aggressive, amygdala is responsible. We go to hippocampus. 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 Hypo means down. So if hippocampus means down, what do we know about it? Also, located in the temporal lobe, essential for the formation of new memories and spatial navigations. New memories and spatial navigations. Now, when you want to navigate from this memory to a new memory, hippocampus is the one which helps you. Damage leads to anterograde amnesia. You see that when you damage the hippocampus, the inability to form new memories, you start having a problem to keep new memories. When you've just done something, you forget easily. Yes, your hippocampus has a problem. Now, let's go to hypothalamus, located below the thalamus. Hypothalamus is located below the hypothalamus. This one controls the autonomic nervous system, things that you cannot control. You cannot control how your heart beats. You cannot control the temperature of your body. You cannot not control how you feel thirst. And you cannot control hunger. When you are hungry, you are hungry. Now, your hypothalamus will tell you you are hungry. You see, your heart rate, when it is taking its effect according to your physiological function of the body, you cannot control your heart rate. Your body will control it with the hypothalamus. You see that? And also, the hypothalamus coordinates release via the hormones released via the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is a very important aspect in life. It controls how your hormones are released. Now, the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland, they coordinate the release of hormones. Yes, influences emotions, responsible and sexual behaviors. Mm. Get it? Influences emotions and sexual behavior. Now, when some people are aggressive or in sexual behaviors, just know the hypothalamus is doing something. Now we have the hypothalamus, which is down at the thalamus, relay sensor, which relays stations for sensory information. They relay stations for sensory information. processes and relays information to the cerebral cortex, plays a role in alertness and awareness, being aware and alert. Mm. When you do not want to sleep and you're doing something. Now, this is a part where will make you be alert always and do something uh, prolonged. Mm. You see that prolonged alertness and awareness. Yeah, we have cingulate gyrus. Cingulate gyrus lies above the corpus callosum. You remember we are still the deeper parts of the brain. Cingulate gyrus lies above the callosum. Involves in emotion regulation, pain perception, and decision making. Pain perception. When I draw a pin and prick you, now cingulate gyrus is the one which brings it out in your brain that hey, please move your hand. Move your hand. There is a prick and it is causing pain. Yes, connects behaviors outcome and motivation. Yes, e.g. learning from punishment. Now you get it. Now, when you punish someone, the cingulate gyrus connects behavioral outcome to motivation. If you've done something wrong, you've been punished. Yes, you've been punished. So the cingulate gyrus will help you learn to change from what you did, which is bad, to better thing, which is good, because you've been punished. Yes. Now let's go to the phonics. The white matter that tract connect the hippocampus to the brain regions. The white matter, the white, the phonics, the white matter that connects the hippocampus to the brain regions, important for memory. You see, brain is a white matter. We have brain as if you are an anatomist, you study about the human, the structure of the human brain. You will see that brain has white matter and gray matter. So the white matter connecting the hippocampus to the brain function is important for memory formation. And then we have the mammillary glands. Mammillary bodies, not glands. We are used to glands. The body is about glands. Mammillary body is located on the undersurface of the brain. That's undersurface of the brain inside, involved in recollecting memories, recollection of memory, emotional expression, which is at times we call it Pape's circuit. How you the emotions come in and get out, come in and get out. We have septal nuclei, septal nuclei located near the hypothalamus. Yes, you said hypothalamus is about emotions and behaviors, sexual behaviors. We have read it previously, associated with pleasure, reward, and reinforcement. Now, we have gone deeper to the parts of the parts of the brain deeper. Remember, when it comes to emotion expression, there is a circuit that moves according to how the signal is sent. It comes from the hippocampus, then it is sent to the phonics, and then mammillary bodies, and then the thalamus, and then cingulate gyrus picks it, and then cingulate gyrus takes it back to the hippocampus. That is how the deeper parts of the brain works, how they send emotions and some signals from outside, external signals. Now, why are we going through this in mental health? As you go deep, you will see some problems like depression, anxiety, and PTSD. Remember to our overview when we started our introduction, and Alzheimer's disease. you will see how the hippocampus, amygdala, and prefrontal cortex are related. How they come in when you are depressed, how they help or they make you more depressed as we go on. Those are the functions of the brain. I will go back, it's a short video today, and show you structures of the brain. And we see we have gone through, if you have not catch something or gone through something, you will go through the video and see. You've seen the amygdala is here, the pituitary gland, the hypothalamus, we have the basal ganglia, we have the cerebrum, we have the thalamus down there. Yes, we have the pituitary gland, we have seen, we have the cerebrum down here. Now we go to the fold again, the brain itself. The brain itself, the lobes of the brain. How are the lobes of the brain? Now the lobes of the brain here are the, as you can see, we have the parietal lobe here, we have the cerebral lobe in front, we have the temporal lobe here, we have the cerebrum, occipital lobe at the back here, we have the cerebrum down here, and the midbrain. Midbrain. We started by saying the brain is divided into three. We have the, as you can remember, about our first touch of the human brain, we said it's divided into the cerebrum, which is divided into frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, and temporal lobe. And those lobes of the cerebrum, they have their own functions. Now, the functions of the frontal lobe, we say thinking, planning, organizing, problem solving, decision making, short term memory, voluntary movement, emotions, and expressive language. Yes, and then we went to the parietal lobe, located behind the frontal lobe near the back of the brain. Its function is interpreting sensory information such as touch, pressure, temperature, and pain. And then we went to the occipital lobe, located behind the back of the brain, processing visual information from the eye, recognition of shapes, colors, and images. Now we go to the other one, which we said is the temporal lobe, located on the side of the head near the ears, temporal. Their functions, we say, processing information from the sense of smell, taste, and sound, language comprehension, and memory storage. Now we go deeper into the structures where we met the thalamus, which is the gatekeeper, hypothalamus controls emotions, hippocampus, crucial for memory and receiving memories, amygdala, processing emotions, we say that, and then the basal ganglia deep in the cerebellum. Now, the cerebrum is the second part of the brain. The cerebrum is the second part of the brain, and being the second part of the brain, we saw its function. Its function is crucial for coordinating involuntary movement. A voluntary movement that you yourself have programmed and you want to do them, like catching a ball, walking, and playing some instruments, even writing. You have seen walking. We have seen motor learning. One is motor control and coordination. The second one is motor learning. Plays a role in learning new motor skill. Get it? It plays a role in learning new motor skills. Motor skills, skills that you are using your hands, like dancing, skills like physical exercises. You get that? When we were young, we were doing that. We used to call it PE in 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 primary school. Cognitive and emotional function is the function of the cerebellum. Imagine researching suggestive involvement in language, processing, attention. If you don't have attention, you have a problem with the cerebellum. Visual and eye movement coordination. When you are visual and eye movement, and even aspect of thinking. When you are thinking, that is coordinated by the cerebellum. But we have seen another part of the brain, which is the brain stem. The brain stem, let me see. Yes, the brain stem is here. The brain stem is here. Let me see. The brain stem is just below the temporal lobe here. It is divided into medulla, pons, and it's divided into the pons, the medulla oblongata, and the midbrain. Now, here, we, the top part of the brain, which is the midbrain, involved in motor control, processing visual and auditory information, and regulative movement, balance. When you are balanced, walking well, it's the midbrain. In the brain stem, the midbrain. It helps you to walk straight. Yes, when children are learning how to walk, the midbrain is learning how to help this child. The pons, the middle portion of the midbrain is the pons. The middle portion of the midbrain is the pons here. The middle portion of the midbrain is the pons. What does the pons help to do? Connect the cerebrum and the cerebellum. Helps coordinate facial and eye movement. Facial and eye movement. Muscles, eye movements are connected by the pons. Facial sensation, hearing, balance, and breathing. Coordination of breathing. Yes, and also origin for the cranial nerves. Very important. Cranial nerves that help you. We have 12 cranial nerves, from vagus, the optic nerve, oculomotor, all of those. We will learn about them one day. The cranial nerves of the brain, how they help and coordinate you. So you will know some of the cranial nerves arise from the pons. Now we go on medulla to the third one, which is the medulla oblongata, the bottom part of the brainstem, where the brain meets the spinal cord. Now, sometimes people tell you your medulla oblongata is not working well. Now, let's know what it helps, because the brain is a big thing and has many functions. Now, what does the medulla oblongata do? It's essential for survival, regulating vital involuntary functions such as the heart rate, very important, blood pressure, breathing, how you breathe, swallowing, coughing, sneezing, and vomiting. Now, when a person is telling you you are not thinking straight, your medulla oblongata is not okay, tell him no, you are wrong. You are the one who is not thinking straight, because this medulla oblongata is involved in involuntary functions. Thank you so much. We have gone through the brain structure. The brain is a deeper structure and a wide structure when it comes to reviews and learning about it. Where even the structure itself, we have not seen how it is. It is protected with a skull. We have just gone through several things that will help you understand when we are learning about mental health, what is happening between this and that. Now, as I go faster to finishing, because this one was just about the structure of the brain and how it works, overview. We have said it's divided into three parts. We have the cerebrum, and we have the cerebellum, and we have the brainstem. Now, the cerebrum is divided into parietal lobe, parietal, then frontal lobe. We have the occipital lobe at the back. We have the temporal lobe. Yes, we have there. It's divided into, those are four parts: frontal, parietal, occipital, and temporal. And then we have here the next part of the brain, which is the cerebellum, yes, which is responsible for movement and smooth muscles movement, motor control. That is responsible for your control of the muscles. Yes, motor coordination, it is even responsible for cognitive and emotional functions. Yes, attention seeking, visual eye movement. And then the third one, we've gone to the brainstem, which is the midbrain, pons, and medulla oblongata. The top of the brain is called the midbrain, involved in motor control, visual issues again, pons, hearing, facial movement, balancing. Yes, we have. We got medulla oblongata. We've seen it is involved in or involuntary movements that you have no control. Now, what I'll say is there are two things in life. There are voluntary and involuntary movements. Voluntary movements are those that you yourself can program and do. Involuntary movements are those that are automated with your body, those that you cannot control. I'll say it and I'll say it again. Why am I going through this anatomy of the brain and everything that I've said? I'm going through it because there are some mental issues that are physically produced from the brain damage. And there are some mental issues that are not. So when we will go and talk about like sexual desires, you have seen the hypothalamus, it is coordinated from the hypothalamus. We will understand why a person is behaving in a certain way. Autistic disorders, we will come and learn these people that are autistic, how can we help them? Because these are coordinated from the brain. As we started, we say the brain is the central processing unit of a human life. If you don't have a brain, you don't have life. And mental health is largely around the brain, the perception of everything, light, the perception of touch, the perception of feelings, everything. We will see how this comes. We will see how addiction of substances in mental health are coordinated from the brain. If you have any question about it, you may put it earlier so that you understand. I know there are some people who have problems that may want to be addressed privately. You may reach me at my private. I'll give you a handle that you may reach me at privately so that I may answer your questions. But if you are okay to talk out of it in public, you'll always be coming to the chat and be part of us. Thank you so much. Our video will end here. We have gone through the parts of the brain. And next time, now we embark on the journey of the mental health and problems that are come with mental health. We will see what will, let me see our topics of mental health that we may go through are, uh, there are so many things that are related to mental health that we may want to talk. Mental health is not just a topic of its own. Let me see what we have prepared, and we see uh, the next time we are going to discuss what we are starting with. We will know that because many people are suffering from many problems. You may say you have your own problem, but mental health is a very wide um, thing that we need to talk about. Now we have from next week we will be talking about disruptive impulse control and conduct disorders. These are the topics that we'll be going through. Neurocognitive disorders. These are disorders that are related to your brain. Personality disorders, we'll talk about personalities, but now this we cannot talk about all these things once. We'll be handling a topic by a topic. Other mental disorders and additional disorders are there. We will talk about them that are not really seen as mental problems, but There are mental issues, medication induced disorders, and other adverse effects of medication in mental health. There's something called gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria, we'll talk about it when time comes. Sexual dysfunctions. Sexual dysfunctions is very important thing in mental health. Sleep-wake disorders. Yes, elimination disorders. Feeding and eating disorders. From people who have issues of feeding and eating disorders, and then it affects them mentally. Somatic symptoms and related disorders, we will talk about them. Dissociation disorders, trauma and stress related disorders like PTSD, post traumatic issues, yes, disorders. Obsessive and compulsive related, I've said that. We will go to anxiety disorders in mental health, depressive disorders, bipolar and related disorders. It's a very good topic. We will talk about it. Bipolar disorders, schizophrenia, spectrum, and other psychotic issues. We will talk about them. We will see how we go. Those are just some of the topics. We will see what to start with, but we can start with depressive disorders next time so that we see how to help people out there. You may review and go through the video, and you see today we were studying about the structure of the brain to get to know how we do. I've just given a highlight of the topics that we're going to be talking about. But if you feel there is a topic in mental health that you think we can address, just holler me, comment. Please, you may go through the video, comment, and like it. Thanks for your time, one you have watched, and everything. That's the end of today's topic. Stay cool, stay good.